Could you
like seriously, bro?
more specific?
Could you be a bit more specific?
Could you be more specific?
Like seriously, bro?
Could you be a bit more
specific?
More specific?
Could you? Like seriously,
Could
bro?
you?
Could you be a bit more specific?
The answer is, and will always be, clearly, no.
And here's why.
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 No.
Here's why.
No.
No.
Yo. Unusual place for me to sit. We're somewhere in April. I'm still full on emotional cleansing. And I have something that you may call creators. Yeah. It's just when you hit this spot where you just feel like just don't want to continue, but then, you know, I just want to get this also out of the way. And because sometimes I also feel like it's annoying me. So then you just have to get creative. So you just have to introduce change, right? So I kind of said I'm not gonna listen to Chris Webby anymore. But today I hit like, maybe it's rock bottom or something. I mean, I also broke through in a lot of ways. I mean, it's April and I'm just working. Worked on my book, Crazy Wisdom 3. Worked on podcasts. Posted on Instagram. Made some art. But this is really hard work. I mean, I'm squeezing hard to keep going. And so then comes the question, right? Could you be more specific? And the answer is a clear no. Because I'm already as specific as you can be when you're talking about so many things. It's not that I don't want to be specific, it's about, I mean, do you realize how many factors are actually impacting you in your choices? So the question, right? I mean, do you want like a 5-point list that's gonna solve all your problems? Well, wake up. It doesn't exist. There is no 10-step plan to success. Because 10 steps for the guy is for the guy, you know, who takes 10 steps. But, I mean, time is relative. That's the basic thing you need to understand. And that message really needs to sink in. And once it did, well, then what's there to say? Because I cannot be more specific because I don't know where you are emotionally, right? I mean, the circumstances of your life are so specific that if I want to teach other people, I simply have to like spread it out really wide. And the best thing I found is to simply talk about emotions. So I talk about how I feel, and that is wobbly at best. I mean, I do feel firm in what I'm doing because I also have checked the beliefs that I hold. And I spent time honing my skills and all of that, and I could tell you what I did. But I did so many things. So if I want to progress away from, let's say, watching porn, I mean, there are so many factors that impact the choice to watch a porn. And I can only draw from my own life where I say, well, I've been rejected too many times by women. And to me, I cannot hold a woman. But women always want this, right? They come into their life and then they just want to jump onto you. And you're supposed to just take it when they have a tantrum. But if you're having a tantrum, right? You know, how many women really take that? So, right, so what am I supposed to tell you? I mean, I'm alone most of the time. I'm just creative. I do my best not to lose track of how probably other people see life. I'm just focused on this kind of work. But I cannot really talk to people about it because nobody can really relate to what I'm doing because I'm doing so many different things. And actually nobody can tell me what to do and how to do it because I would immediately reject their ideas. Or they would probably have to, I mean, I have been in situations where people try to tell me what I'm supposed to do. And these things usually do not end well because I never asked for your tips. So could you be more specific, like why would I do that? Because the only worthwhile thing that you'll ever have in your life is you, yourself, your mind, and the time to solve riddles. And so I'm solving riddles day by day. Sometimes the riddle is, okay, what is today's mission? I mean, I just spent about 4 to 5 days inside this apartment without leaving it. Just being creative, working off stuff because I had already recorded lots of videos and now I had to render them. And if you want to know how much motivation on your part it takes to keep going while being alone, then I can tell you a lot. But how could you ever understand this? How could you ever understand my motivation to do what I'm doing unless you would find something similar important to you in your own life? So for me, you know, I have many things that motivate me to do what I'm doing, and one of them is nature. Then it's the people that I know. It's the experiences that I've made. It's the hidden intention. So it's, you know, people talk about change, but they always want others to change. They never want to change themselves. And if you do start to change, you know, they lose track because who are you now? And then you actually have to remind them. So do you see already, if I say one sentence, one random sentence, I will, you will never get all of them. Which is why I don't have to be specific, because somebody who understands truth can reflect whatever I'm saying back onto himself or herself and understand where he or she is clinging at the moment, because that's what it's all about. You're stuck and you're afraid to let go now. So I'm stuck in some ways, but then I just push through and I just work off. But sometimes I don't want to push through and work off. And then I resist the urge to do so until the pressure gets so much, because I'm in the middle and like in the treadmill, right? Like, and I have to keep going. The energy is building up and I have to use it. And then I have to move on. So could you be more specific? It's impossible. Because let's say, I watch my neighbors, the Yamadas, which is a Ghibli movie from Hayao Miyazaki. And I can watch, this like all these like little mini movies in a big movie or something, like short stories from the life of the Yamadas. And I watch one of these short stories, and what happens in me when I watch this may be something completely different than what happens in you or whatever, right? When they watch this. So there was a time where I used to, it's like, let's say you walk with your father through the forest and all you see is trees and living beings, and you look at the forest, and because I've had, I studied environmental protection and I love nature and I like life, and so I see the forest with completely different eyes than, let's say, maybe my father. Or at least what he's saying, right? I don't know what he's actually seeing. But when I look at the forest, I see living things. I see trees. I also see, okay, humans have like planted too many spruce trees, and that actually weakened the forest. It's like the monoculture and stuff. So I see all these things when I look at it, and then my father looks at it and he just sees potential firewood, right? So he can have it nice and warm at home. So you see, it's like completely different perspective, mindset even. Like the basic, the basis of, what you're getting out of whatever is, confronting you in life. Someone looks at porn and all they see is the breasts, and I see desperation. I see people desperate for attention, and people who have these unfulfilled lives. And so my life in a way is also unfulfilled. I'm actually craving for female presence and also female attention, like a real woman in my life. But I cannot resist the pressure. But to me, it's also in a way, I feel like every time I go back to pornography and watching it, I also feel like I'm just rejecting whatever woman may come into my life and I just say, you know what, I don't care. I rather, stay alone. So, there's so much also suffering that's like very specific. If you're in your kind of like suffering mode, then there are other topics that are relevant to you than to me. And what I realized is, if I'm dealing with a specific topic in my life, I can hear people talk about, dishwashing machines. I once had a conversation or heard a conversation about, dishwashing machines. But whatever they said about dishwashers seemed to hit something in me, in some kind of like relationship topic. And that seems to be one of the loops I have in my life. Always this thing with women and relationships. And I never get past that. It's like, to me it ended in, I'm just gonna be alone then for the rest of my life. Because I seem to be unable to find a woman that actually, wants to stick it out with me. And I'm at that point where I would make it so hard for a woman to actually be together with me that it's probably impossible. I mean, she would really have to tackle me. Wrestle me down. Because I would just try to, get her out of the way. I mean, leave me alone, right? So she'd really have to be convincing. And she would have to be right in my face. So, could you be more specific? No, I cannot be more specific. Because all I've been telling you is that you should do more. I mean, my life is a representation of what I stand for. And it's, we work under pressure and we keep going. And we listen to what we need to do and then we do it. But what you need to do is completely different from what I need to do. Like the stuff that I did to be able to continue with my mission, to talk about consciousness and conscious living, and to also learn from things. So, to me, pornography can be a teaching. I mean, there's a lot of valuable information that I have received just by watching porn. And you may think, well, that's ridiculous. And I say, well, to you. But I'm here to learn. And so I'm learning. And there's no woman around. So, what's gonna stop me? I hate to lead a life where I'm just stuck on being afraid of the consequences. So I'll just say, hey, if it's meant to be, it's gonna happen. I'm not gonna be able to stop it if it's the real deal. So I'm not trying to stop it, but I'm just trying to get by and survive. And I mean, there's people, for whatever reason, that never really had any interest in porn. But for me, it's like, and so if I manage, but I always get drawn back into it. And that's something, for instance, that really bothers me. But at the same time, it's also so liberating. And then it's like a trap, right? It's super strange. And if somebody would come and ask me to be more specific, I would just say, why? Like, what for? What's the purpose? If I'm more specific, like, what more would you get out of this? You know, if I tell you now why I do and what I'm doing, I mean, I've already said these things. But if I just say it like this, you know, what else am I gonna say? I'd just rather shoot it all out there and make it for myself as interesting as I can. You know, I also want to wiggle around a bit. I don't want to be the easy catch. If you can get me with one video, then there's not much depth to it. But I have so many topics, from environmental protection to all this spiritual stuff, to fear, to love and hatred, to all these words that I learned stuff about, you know, all the movies I have drawn insights from, all the experiences I have done. So could you be more specific is a really ignorant question that shows your lack of, the will to simply figure it out for yourself. And so, I must tell you, I think you're a really lazy person. If you would like me to be more specific in my teachings, well, just look at the playlists, and then you see there's cooking, there's art, so there's creativity, you know, that's what the entire channel stands for. You know, I'm doing something, and that's what I'm gonna do for a very long time, probably. You know, until something else happens. So, because the content I've created thus far could give you stuff to work with for years. I mean, people are still listening to Ramdas and Terence McKenna. And those recordings are like 20, 30 years old. So, I mean, I've already probably recorded more content, more hours of content than both of them together. And I all did it on my own. Nobody helped me in anything. It was usually all ideas that came out of me because I simply spent most of my time alone and thought about stuff that I could do. How I could learn about myself, figure stuff out about myself, and then try to somehow make it worthwhile. You know, but mostly what this is also about, it's like, you know, if you're having a super lonely day and you hate your life and you just want to leave, you know, I think it's actually a worthwhile experience to listen to someone like me who's struggling as well, who stands up against all this nonsense that we're being, you know, like hammered with. And so I say for myself, if I, in my position, look for a little comfort in pornography, then to me, that's okay. So, you know, if you're like super hard with yourself all the time, I also say, you know, give yourself some slack sometimes. Because my approach has been for a very long time that if I meet people, you know, and they want something from me, I just hammer them with truth, with anything that I can think of, and then I just leave. And then, you know, that's your homework. And that's my idea. Also, if you want to blow people's minds, you have to like take them along for the ride and then BAM! So you never know. I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna say next. I mean, I can make a recording about this and then suddenly I say this. And then you're like, wow, didn't expect him to say that. Yeah, exactly. Like, BAM! Completely blew my mind. I never saw it like this. Yeah. How often do you think my mind is being blown? By just sitting here, dwelling on these things, and then suddenly it's like, what? That's how I was raised? I mean, it takes years and hours just sitting there, feeling how you felt like a child, and then seeing, how does it all connect to porn? That's what I'm trying to understand. I mean, I kind of know it, but why do I always get sucked back into it? Why am I so prone to porn? And is there a way out of it? And is it even necessary? Because I have had so many moments where I was like hopeless, and I didn't want to continue, and I hated it. And then, it's just like 5-10 minutes, and you're good to go, continue. And as long as I'm honest about it, it's all right. As long as you're honest about it, it's all right. It's just if you start lying about it, that's when the problem arises. You just have to be honest about it. And that's the thing, And I think one of the greatest fears I have is that I fell in love with a woman and that she just cheated on me with another man. Which is why, I'm just rejecting it. Just like that, out of principle, because I just feel like I know. Right? And so I'm just rejecting it. And I don't really care then. I can deal with the distance, but in a way it's also really annoying. So could you be more specific? I'm an emotional being as well, And I've tried to keep this emotional stuff out of it, but it's impossible. It always creeps back in. If it comes to emotions, then all you can do is just sit there, learn how to deal with it in your way. So I make art, I talk about stuff, I just show that I keep going anyway, because the greatest problem is probably hopelessness. And now I'm looking forward to putting up my bed, not doing the dishes, because sometimes you just want to push it off, right? You just want to push off doing the dishes until you actually feel like doing it. Because right now I'm happy as long as I keep producing content. I can put off the dishes because the apartment is basically clean. And that's what I like, as long as there's no mess. I frequently do the laundry, I keep it clean. I'm alone, but I manage that, I do my cooking sessions, I take the time to make food, I'm householding, I make the most of stuff. If life somehow provides me with bread, I'll eat a lot of bread, that kind of stuff. So I cannot be more specific because I'm struggling as well. But I have certain methods that work for me that may look nice from the outside, but if you were living it, you'd have, I don't know, maybe 70% hell and 30% heaven. Right? You have moments where it's super nice, and then you have moments where it's terrible. Like, really, I hate it. But even that can be nice in a way, right? Because if it's always just nice, sometimes you just need to feel a bit sick, just so that not feeling sick is much nicer. So you just learn to deal with all of this stuff. So I cannot be more specific because it's always somewhere left, right, and the middle. And sometimes you can hold the middle for some time, but then it gets too boring, and then you drink a coffee, and then it's like, ah! And I think that's all that I got, right? It's like, it's about the juggling, and to keep it interesting. And I'm sick of women, right? So like on a relationship basis, so I'll just try to be alone for as long as I can until there's like a proper woman that wants to share this space. Until then, I'm just gonna be alone. And that's just all that I got, right? So could you be more specific? I think that's a clear no. And regardless of whether I think this is a good video, sometimes I also just need to introduce some change, right? So I just don't know, man. I feel like somebody cheated on me. But whether that is my fear or the actual truth or somebody's hidden intention, I don't know, man. I don't know. All I know is that I feel like somebody cheated on me or is going to. And that's the reality that I live in. And all I can do is just keep going. And pay attention and focus on the work that I'm doing and make sure that I'm not drawn too much into all of this emotional melodrama. So one of my main objectives in life is basically letting go, transcending, and what is this one again? Letting go, transcending. Moving on. Pushing through. And then, I just cling to work. I just cling to work. And that's what I just did now, right? That's the message. If you can get anything out of this, then I just keep going. I just keep going. But if you're alone a lot, it's also really hard. I'm in a creator's heaven, but that too can be hell. So I cannot be more specific, but it all makes sense to me. I don't know, I just feel really sad. I feel betrayed on so many levels, and I carry that all, and then I make art. But to say that I know exactly what's real would be probably stretching it. And then I just can relate myself to Jung, C.G. Jung, who said in an interview, well, I've always had a kind of a loose feeling to reality. And then I think I know it's okay. Because in the end, I just do my planks, I just do my yoga, and in the end, spirituality is about letting go. Right? And that's all I know then. So, right, women, what are they? I don't care. I can do this on my own. As sad as it feels, but I can. And I've never met anyone, You know, I know that I'm faithful, but I've never met anyone who could give that back. Because they always just jumped to others, you know. I'm the guy they always left behind. And so I just started to leave first. And that's a fact. And now it's time for bed. Just wanted to get this out of the way.